Right. Prof, do you agree with that? Because there seems to be a big disconnect between what we saw during the campaign period and what we're seeing on election day. We did see the debates, the manifestos being launched. Is it like Kenyans or the young person, if that is the demographic that is abstaining from this election, do not believe in what the politician is telling them, promising them?
Yeah, I think the mismatch is quite worrying and very glaring. And in particular, if we take into consideration the investment that the politicians put into this election.
Right.
There was a lot of campaigning. There was but unfortunately, I think also we need to relate these campaigns and electioneering with what they say in written form. You can do you can ask people. Very few people have read even those manifestos. So even when they get out there, they get out there on the basis of what the politicians are saying. But I don't think they believe. First, people don't believe that what the politicians are saying, they'll do. It's like these are just mere campaign words. It won't really turn around into helping me. But I think my most concern is if I look at the turnout and I'm watching to see where it will end on the mountain, the so-called mountain that has been the discussion for almost now 4 months. The mountain can't turn out now to be the one with the lowest turnout. And the mountain always have almost 100+%. So I'm really questioning about the mountain and what could have driven the mountain not to come out and vote. Is it an issue of not wanting either of the candidates? And in the evening, I had an interesting discussion with a young person who told me that I think we should have none of the above in the ballot. So that if you don't want the 4, you can also score none of the above. So I was asking him, when you score none of the above, then who have you voted for? But that can show you how not interested the youth are. Right. For one to say it should even, then there is also the argument that it's like we are helping them to get a job. Now I'm talking like a youth because I've tried to really prod why. Because even some that went to vote, some of us were really like, let's go, let's go. It was not like a priority like I slept knowing I will have to vote. This one is please go and vote. You call, I'll be going. It was not a priority. And it's all about, I don't see how it helps me. It's more of me helping others get a job, get pegs, and feel very comfortable. So I think it's something to really look into what we are seeing, and let's hope that we get to at least 65. Overall, if we will be below 65, 66 will be really bad because that is like we are retrogressing as far as public participation and in civic duty is concerned. It would be like the worst in almost the last 15 years or 20. So it's a lot of questions to be raised about getting out to vote.
Raphael, what do you make of it? And politically speaking, who does it affect more from your crystal ball?
I think for me is that, I mean, the younger generation, especially Generation Z, seem to be disappointed and dissatisfied. They've not casted their votes in favor of any of these candidates even in the past, but the stories they've had, the lessons they've learned, what they've seen makes them feel like election is not the way to achieve whatever they want to achieve. So there's that dissatisfaction and disappointment amongst these amongst the youth, and especially the Generation Z. And Generation Z seems to be that generation that says, you can't take us for a ride. We are not the generation that you can take for a ride. You've taken maybe the other generation and our parents for a ride, but not us. So try someone else. So that way, they've stayed away from this process. I think the second thing is just we are imagining that it is obvious that when someone gets to 18, they'll get an ID card and automatically they'll want to vote. It doesn't happen like that. Even in developed democracies, strong democracies like the US and the UK, you will realize that youth really need a lot of convincing and they need to be persuaded. Like in the US, we saw it took someone like Obama to excite the youth base. It took someone like Bernie Sanders to excite the youth base. So we shouldn't take it, we shouldn't imagine that it is obvious that this youth will come out and vote. There's a lot of civic awareness that needs to be done. There's a lot of sharing of information, of history on why election is important. I think the third thing is people don't see, and especially the young generation, they do not see the connection between election politics and their daily lives. For them, election is separate from their daily lives. So I think we need to do a lot more to help them see the connection that if you do not vote, for example, you are also giving an opportunity to that bad leader. And you are also going to exacerbate your worst situation. So I think there's a lot more that needs to be done in terms of just conscientizing young people, because that is the only opportunity. Election is the only opportunity we have to install leaders that are going to help us address some of our problems. And finally, I think it's just what and who is on the ballot. I think people don't see what is in the ballot for them. And what is on the ballot for them, for the youth, for example, would be, will this election address, for example, youth unemployment? Will it address the issue of high cost of living? Will it address my personal needs? So we really need to help the young generation to personalize election. And then the other thing is who is on the ballot. I think many of these faces, and if you look at the presidential candidates, for example, I mean, both Deputy President William Ruto and Raila have been in the game long enough. Right. And so people are asking what new are they bringing? And so if people don't see that connection, and it could be the youth, but it could also be a different constituency. It could be women, it could be maybe regions. So who is on the ballot also determines the turnout. And seems like for some people, they didn't see a person who could drive them to the voting booth. And so they decided, let's stay away and maybe wait for later. Right. Maybe, Ben, I just want to add one thing. I think our elections are also too long. I mean, if you've seen these campaigns, they've been going on for 5 years. I think towards the end, people are tired, you know. Even the candidates themselves, you saw towards the end, many of them disappeared because they didn't have any more resources.
That is self-created.
Yeah, yeah.
It's self-created.
But that it could also be the same for voters. If you stay in the game for too long, people get fatigued, and maybe they decided, we've seen them, we've had everything from them, so let's stay away. Yeah.
Is there a danger of Mugambi creating a disconnect? I'm focused on that young generation that, like Prof says, these young people she was talking to, and it really was not a priority for them. After some years, can we lose such people, you know, to building this nation, really? And what does that mean?
Highly likely, actually. For me, it's not can we create, it's we have created. It's there, it's solidly there. If you look at, again, registration, you look at what the turnout is, where we're having to push people. I mean, when my generation started voting, which is the first multi-party election, you did not need anyone to push anyone. Even those who were in bars, they knew. About 3 or 4. I'll first go vote, and then the rest of you can slip it off. Or there's a way in which
starts the other way.
And part of it, actually, in my view, is it comes back to what Prof and Raphael are saying. The framing of what's the election issue, because every election has got an issue which is it's framed. The mind is framed around. So like 92, it was multi-partyism. It was, you know, and that Moi must go began to catch fire. And whatever then came, by 2002, it was very, very clear what the change would look like. In 2007, it was about exclusion of really the larger majority of Kenya from what was called the Mount Kenya Mafia. Now, so this is a question that, again, happily for us, is on the table. These young people are saying, I don't see my issues on the table. Now, UDA tried to frame it as such. We will cater for hustler nation. So if you're a hustler, but then question of believability. You've been in government for how long? As was said here, you've been in government for how long? Up to the highest level, just below the highest level. The other one is, you've been in politics for very, very long. And so it was a question again of believability. Do you guys think we're going to repeat the mistakes of the past? So for me, this is it. We actually need to go back to that generation and ask, okay, because I know it's not even just in electoral politics that the Gen Z, this Generation Z, has a problem. Even in the workplace, You will hear.
Yeah.
I mean, Prof, you know, if her colleagues will tell you, even in university, they don't. They look at you and ask, you know, why do I need